Friends, in this hydraulic excavator chapter, so far we have completed 4 videos. That is the evolution of the excavators, the basics of the hydraulics, then critical components and the main pump. Now in this fifth video, I am going to explain about the hydraulic motor, which is used to drive the swing gearbox and also as well as the travel devices. Friends, we have discussed about the hydraulic main pump in the previous video. The hydraulic main pump, that is precisely speaking variable displacement axial piston pump, which is the main source of the power supply to the various implements of the excavators. Implement in the sense this boom, the stick, bucket and this traveling devices, string devices. In this video we will talk about the hydraulic motors. The job of the hydraulic motors in the excavator is to give the power to revolve the superstructure or the upper structure of the machine, that is to operate this swing device which is located here. And the other job of the hydraulic motors is to give the power to this traveling devices, means the devices which moves the machine forward and reverse, and also to steer the machine left side or right side. So why the swinging action is required? To pick the material and to unload the same wherever we want. In this case, you can see approximately 45 to 60 degrees swinging action. The other case, it may require even 60 degrees, 90 degrees, even 110 degrees, 40 degrees also. However, the machines are designed to rotate 360 degrees. The superstructure of the machine can rotate up to 360 degrees over this base frame. The main source of power to function these hydraulic motors is the hydraulic oil. So the hydraulic oil which is delivered by the pump supplied to these motors to get the rotation. In majority of the excavators we can see two types of hydraulic motors. One type is called the bent axis motor. This is called bent axis motor. First of all, let us observe this figure. The function of this any hydraulic motor will be just opposite to the function of the hydraulic pump. In case of the hydraulic pump, because of the angle between the surface of this barrel housing and surface of this plate where these pistons are sitting, so the translational moment of the pistons converts into the rotational moment. So this is the main technology involved in the axial piston pumps or the motors. What happens in case of the pumps, as this unit is rotated through an engine or the electric motor, suction is created here, oil is drawn inside, and when it completes around 180 degrees, the gap starts reducing. Whatever the oil is drawn inside is pumped out. That's how the pump functions. In case of the motor, it is just opposite here. The pressurized oil will be pumped to the pistons. The pressure from the hydraulic oil makes the pistons to move outwards. When it starts moving outward, as this complete unit cannot be pushed backside, whereas the space here going on increasing, the swivel joint mechanism in this base plate pushes this unit in an angular way. Instead of moving it straight, it pushes in an angular way with the help of this angle and the ball joint mechanism provided here. So the pressurized oil inside the cylinder pushes this piston outwards, which ultimately making this complete unit to move in a rotational way. And when they reaches 180 degrees, the gap inside starts receding, making the oil to come out and go to the tank. So the function of the hydraulic motor or fluid motor is just opposite to the function of the fluid pump. The another difference is pump will rotate only in one direction, whereas motor will rotate in both the directions, clockwise and anti-clockwise, depending upon the machine's requirement. And the one more difference is, in case of the axial piston pump, the angle between these two surfaces will be varied through a governing mechanism. So to vary the fluid quantity as per the system requirement. Whereas in case of the motor, the angle is fixed. In the sense, in the majority, more than 90% of the machines deploy or use the fixed angle pumps. However, there are some variable displacement motors can be seen in the very high capacity mining excavators. So let us confine to the fixed angle motors. The internal construction of the pump. This is called bent axis pump. There are mainly two types of pumps are fitted in the excavators. One type is called the bent axis pump. The other type is called the swash plate pump. If you see this bent axis pump, looks like this. This is the complete solid housing. This is the output shaft. All the pistons arranged in a plate or fixed to the output shaft. So the output shaft is connected to the piston carrier. This is the piston carrier. Okay, and fixed in a housing through the help of the bearings, and there are some oil seals are provided to prevent the oil leakage. And this barrel assembly is arranged in a particular angle to these pistons. You can see this straight line and this line supported in the housing, and one side the pistons are inserted inside the cylinders, the other end a valve plate or the port plate is placed here. This is the bent axis pump. The majority of the machines what they use in the present generation is the swash plate design. In the swash plate design, you can see the difference is the output shaft is connected to the barrel housing. Here the output shaft is connected to the piston plate, whereas the output shaft in the swash plate is connected to the barrel housing. And housing will be plain, not like this. It will be plain housing. Whereas how the angle is maintained here is another device called swash plate is provided here. It's a fixed swash plate. Over this, the complete piston unit is mounted in this swash plate, which freely slides over this swash plate when this complete unit is rotating. This swash plate arrangement gives or provides the angle between the swash plate surface and also the barrel housing surface. Again, I am telling you the angle between these two surfaces is very critical to convert the translational movement of these pistons into the rotary motion of this output shaft. We can see the complete assembly in this figure. This particular device is the swing device. This unit is having the reduction gears, plant reduction gears. This is the output pinion, and here this is the swash plate design motor, hydraulic motor. And this is the travel device. The bottom one is the planetary reduction unit, and this one is the motor, same way swash place design motor. For information, the construction or design of the swing motor and the travel motors are identical, except some changes in the external housing for the piping connections. This is the exploded view of the travel device. This is the base frame. This complete is a travel device comprising this motor and this reduction gears, and the sprocket wheel is mounted over this housing. The sprockets are meshed with the traction like this. Now, for easy understanding of the function of a hydraulic motor, let us discuss in detail about the working of a bent axis motor. This is the cut section of the bent axis motor, illustration of the bent axis motor, and looks like this. Various parts I once again explain you. This is the shell or the housing. This is the bearing, and this is also bearing. This is the oil seal will be there. This is the spindle or the output shaft. These are the pistons, a set of pistons, and this is the piston mounting plate, and this is the cylinder block having multiple cylinders inside. The number of pistons and barrel cylinders may be 7 to 9. This is called the valve plate or the port plate to supply the oil from one end and take the exhaust the oil from the other end. This is the angle which decides the speed of the motor and the torque of the motor. The angle between the surface of this piston plate and also the surface of the barrel housing. This is the barrel housing. And these are the parts. This is the port plate. This is the shaft. And these particular plates are called the multiple disc plates used to apply the brake of this motor that I will explain in the next slide. These are pistons. How it will work, I will just brief you. The pressurized oil from the pump, whenever we supply, enters in the bottom side of the piston, pushing the piston outside, causing to push this complete weight in an axial way. So this translational movement of the piston converts here into the axial movement. So once it passes little bit upside, the next piston comes here and oil enters here. The next piston comes here and oil enters here. Like that, once it starts rotating up to 180 degrees, that is, the oil enters here to the maximum available space inside the cylinder, and the further rotation of this barrel makes to push the oil from outside to the inside through this valve plate. The valve plate is designed in such a way that if we supply the oil from one side, it rotates clockwise. If the supply the oil from the other end of the plate, the motor rotates anti-clockwise. Like that, the change of the direction of the motor takes place, and the change of the direction of the traveling or the swinging of the machine happens. This is the swash plate motor. I explained you various parts. Here, this is the plate. See the difference here? The swash plate motor output shaft is connected to the barrel housing, not to the piston plate. And see the housing of the motor also. The swash plate motor housing will be in a plain cylindrical way, unlike the angular way which we have seen in case of the bent axis motor. So here this is a shaft and these are the seal rings, shaft seal, this is the bearing, and this is the housing, the gray one is the housing, and this is the sliding disc fitted over a tapered plate. This is called the swash plate. The sliding disc carries all the pistons, 7 to 9 whatever may be, and freely slides or move over this tapered plate. Okay, and at this end the port plate is provided here. So pistons are inserted here. Once the pressurized oil enters here through this blue spot, the piston start moving outwards and it slides over here because of the gap available here. When it slides over here, that force causes to rotate the housing axially. So it goes, moves, the next piston comes, the next piston comes, like that. As it reaches here 180 degrees, the oil is filled to the maximum space, and the further movement of this housing, complete housing, makes to evacuate the oil due to the decrease of the space between the piston and the surface. So here, this is the angle between this swash plate and the barrel surface to decide the torque of this motor and the speed of the motor. These are the dismantled parts of the swash plate type motor. You can see this is the swash plate, this is the piston sliding plate, these are the pistons mounted on this plate. This is the barrel housing where these pistons going to insert like this. This is the valve plate or the port plate. The complete shaft is connected to this housing here, piston housing. This is how it looks, swash plate motor. We discussed about the brake. Normally what happens when the excavators are parked in any inclined plane or working in the inclined plane, if there isn't any braking mechanism, it is possible that machine may slide down. To prevent that one, a brake mechanism is provided here. Considering this is the housing, this is the pump housing, rigid one, this is the barrel housing which always moves. A set of clutch plates, that is the friction plates and reaction plates, are provided here. So, and they are always held together with the help of the spring. Means the always the brake is in engaged position. Whenever we wanted to rotate these motors, either the travel motor or swing motor, first the brake is released through hydraulic oil supply and the motor becomes free. Then the oil is supplied to these pistons to rotate the motor in the required direction. And when we see the brakes, what we discussed, when you cut the machine, when you cut any travel device or swing device, for example, this is the travel device, looks like this. The complete bottom portion is the reduction gear unit with the planetary gear set. This complete portion is the motor unit. These are the pistons, these are the tapered swash plate. Okay. Inside there will be cylinder barrel housing. You see these plates, what I told you, these are the disc plates, brake discs or clutch discs. So they are always held together with the help of a spring, as I discussed, as I told you. So whenever we want to release the brake, oil is supplied from one of the port here, acting pressure on the internal springs, making this clutch plates free from each other, allowing the motor to rotate freely. And while we see 90% to 95% of the excavators are fitted with the bent axis or the uh, swash plate axial piston motors, we can see some machines fitted with another type of motor which is called the cam type of motor. The cam type of motors can be seen in the Pockline machines. Pockline is the company which manufactures the hydraulic excavators. The cam type motor construction, the cut section will be looking like this. These are the oil path inside, okay, and these are the pistons, dark gray. The light gray are the rollers. With the oil pressure, the pistons start moving up and down. When the pistons start moving up and down, the rollers also start pushing this housing because of the special shape provided here. So the special curved shape provided here allows the outward movement of the rollers to rotate this complete housing. So the translational movement of these pistons converting into the rotational movement of the housing here. This is how the cam motor works. Please go through these 3 pages notes. In case you have any queries, contact me through the email.